if you have a butt that is flatter than it was before pregnancy and you have leaking issues, then this chat is for you. I know in the past I have shown in like my short videos random leg lifting type videos where I'm doing moves like this and out to the side, any type of leg lifting type move. And I might say something like, your flat mom butt is tied to your weak or tight pelvic floor, and that exercises like these leg lifts can not only help with leaking, but can help flatten our mom pooch and also help with back pain. I want to go through that connection and help you understand how that really works. So I did do a lot of connecting to get to that conclusion, but I want you to understand where my mind is with that and show you how to make this really basic, pretty simple exercise work for you. When I say that in 3 to 4 weeks, you can really get resolution of leaking and back pain, and it can help flatten your tummy, I totally stand by it. And I want you to understand it so that you can just feel confident as you do that. But I will say something, sis, if your butt was flat before kids, that's not what I'm talking about. This is not for you. We need another video. We'll have to talk about something else, because when I say flat mom butt or flat butt postpartum, I just mean our butt is flatter than it was before babies. I remember one time I was doing a visual assessment of a mom, and I had her stand up. I'm looking at her like on Zoom or something, and I had her stand up, and I could tell her butt was not only just flat, but that she was clenching her butt a little bit. And I said, "Do you have leaking issues?" She was like, "Yeah, how do you know?" I was like, "I could just tell by how you're holding your butt." And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, if we work on that, it can really help to release and relax your butt so that you can build your glutes back." Let's try to go at it just from a little bit of an anatomy perspective. I just want you, like I said, we want to make that connection between the pelvic floor and the butt, okay? So with your pelvic floor, you have, I'm wearing my nifty suit so you can kind of see a little bit, trying to get too, personal, but what you have here is your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is made up of muscles. So you have all your organs here, and underneath, the only thing that's kind of in part holding everything up is the muscles that make up your pelvic floor. The muscles that surround and control the openings, the 3 openings for us females that we have down there. It's all muscles. You don't have like a bowl, a hard anything that's really down there. You have your pubic bone that connects here, but your muscles are holding all of that up. And that's your pelvic floor, holds the bottom of your core, okay? So if those muscles are weak, that helps to prevent leaking and all of that. If those muscles are weak, one of the closest muscles that's close to your pelvic floor that's holding everything up are your glutes. So if they're weak, a lot of times we'll use our glutes, we'll clench them to help provide stability here, okay? So if we have weakness of the pelvic floor, then we might find that we're using our glutes and we're clenching them a lot to try to help support and make up for that lack of strength of the pelvic floor here. And what happens, ironically, is squeezing it tight, you think it might become stronger, but what happens is tight muscles become weaker. And weaker also can mean flatter, okay? So when it comes to the glutes, when these get weaker, they get flatter. So what happens is the pelvic floor is weak, the glutes overcompensate by clenching to try to help support you down there, and that tightness ends up being weaker or causing weakness, hence causing flatness, okay? Okay, so hopefully that made sense. One thing that I'd love for you to try with me right now, actually, is try to do a Kegel right now and relax your glutes, okay? So you're gonna try to do a Kegel, try to squeeze the front of your pelvic floor, try to squeeze your pelvic floor in general. Pretend like you're trying to stop the flow of urine, and you're trying to lift, or you can pretend as though you're trying to grab, I love this analogy, that you're trying to grab a marble with your lady parts, and you're trying to bring it up inside, okay? That's a Kegel. Now try to relax your glutes. Try to do that without your glutes taking over. If your glutes are like really trying to assist, that means that you might be doing that throughout the day. It's trying to assist your pelvic floor. That's what it does. It's just so closely related there. Okay. So if if you had that situation going on, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to strengthen the pelvic floor so that your butt doesn't have to keep trying to take up the slack. Okay. So that's the connection between a flat mom butt and your pelvic floor. So when you're doing exercises like the leg lift. Now, I like to do the leg lift because a lot of times when you find that you try to do Kegels, a lot of times they're not done properly. And that's a whole nother video that I have somewhere on my YouTube channel where I go through a proper Kegel. But what I like to do when it comes to strengthening the pelvic floor is strengthening the pelvic floor with functional movements. Like this one, the leg lift. And actually research shows that doing these leg lifts, any type of leg lifting exercise where you're lifting the leg, it actually recruits the muscles of the pelvic floor better than a Kegel. So that's why I love this. You don't have to think real hard if you're doing it properly or not. And I love that it's just a functional movement that I can just focus on the movement itself. And that is going to really activate the pelvic floor and help with leaking. Okay. I also love the leg lifts because not only does it help with the pelvic floor, but you also can notice that it helps with the lower abs. Okay. And that's why I say this particular move can help with your pelvic floor, can also help flatten your tummy. It can also help with your back. A lot of times back problems can be because of a weak core. It can also be because of a dysfunctional pelvic floor. So if your pelvic floor is weak or your core is weak, that can contribute to back pain. So doing this particular move, I wasn't just making it up and just saying that it was like a magic move, but it really does help all of those things. If you get down on the floor with me right now, I can show you how to make sure you're doing this properly because it looks so simple. But here's the thing. I just want you to make sure that when you're doing this move, you're not letting your back pop up off the ground. That's probably one of the main things is don't let your back pop up off the ground. If you find that when you're doing leg lifts, you find your back starts to go up, that's fine. What I want you to do is only go down as far as you can without letting your back pop up. So if that means here and bring it back, then that's where you stop. Okay. In my 8-week core challenge, I bring you through baby steps. So like before you would do this particular leg lift version, you might start down low, keeping your legs here and just lifting. Okay. That's a lot simpler than trying to start here, go down and come back up. Okay. So you could start just like this. All right. Now, another move that you might see that I do that I say, okay, this move helps with the flat mom butt because it helps your pelvic floor. Your knees bent at this angle is really good for kind of stretching out the glutes when you're doing an activity for your pelvic floor. So I like to also throw in this move. You've probably seen me do this one. Okay. So I might go like this and then I do this move. This move is great as well. It's kind of like the leg lift. It engages the pelvic floor, but not just because it's a leg lift, but also because going this way, bringing it back in uses your inner thigh or your adductors. Your adductor muscle runs here, it connects to the pelvic floor and works along with the pelvic floor as well. Okay. So this one, and when I say works along with, it co-contracts. So as you engage your inner thigh or your adductor to bring the leg back up, you're going to naturally contract your pelvic floor without even having to think about it, okay? And that's going to really help to build your pelvic floor, strengthen your pelvic floor, so that your glutes don't have to overcompensate and try to take up the slack and then become tight and flat like we were talking about, okay? So this is a great move. Again, when you go out, you want to make sure your back is flat on the ground. When you go this way, you want to make sure you keep this leg still, okay? You're going to use your abs, your lower abs, keep them nice and flat. That's another tip. When you're doing any of these moves, I don't want to see any bulging of the abs. So even if your back is on the ground, but you're bulging or ballooning here, that's not what we want to see. We want this to stay flat. It takes your transverse abdominis, that corset muscle that flattens you out. You want to keep that nice and flat to keep you in flat like that, okay? So when you extend this way, I want you to keep it flat, back to the floor. But when you extend this way, you're going to use that deep core muscle to keep you flat and to keep you from rocking and falling over this way. Keep that leg very still, and you're really going to be engaging that deep core muscle, the transverse abdominis, and the pelvic floor. Okay? All right. So I promise, do that move. Do like 10 on each side. Okay? Do 10 on each side. Do 3 sets of that. Do that for 3 to 4 weeks. I promise you, you're going to see some changes. You're going to find that your leaking will improve. Your back will get better. Your tummy will get flatter.